Welcome to Measuring Success Right, the official student-led podcast of the Marriott Student Review, where we connect the leaders of tomorrow with the issues of today.
Welcome to another episode of the Measuring Success Right podcast. My name is Stuart Bird. I'm the host today, and I'm joined by Dr. Shad Morris. Dr. Morris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Stuart.
So Dr. Morris is a professor at BYU's Marriott School of Business. He's a professor of management. So some classes that he teaches are managing teams, international business, and change management. He is also the director of the Whitmore Global Business Center. And so that focuses on study abroads, international business, and others. So that is a topic that we will focus on today.
All right. I'm excited to go.
So we talked about what you do now, but I'd love to hear about your path. So let's start with your education. You got an education here at BYU studying psychology. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. You also went on to get a master's in international relations and organizational behavior, as well as a PhD in business management.
Correct.
Okay. I recognize that your bachelor's degree wasn't in business, it was in psychology. What was your plan at that time for your future career?
I think when I started, I actually wanted to be a high school counselor.
Okay.
Because I had a cool high school counselor and thought, oh, that's a cool job. I can help students and make a difference. I loved psychology and still do, and served my mission in Bulgaria, got back and thought, I don't know if I can handle being a psychologist. I think that would be tough. I admire anyone who works full-time as a psychologist. So I started exploring some other options. I love the brain. I love studying how people think and behave. But I'm more interested in economic development. I just got back from Bulgaria, where it was right after the collapse of communism, seeing a broken system and thinking, is there a major out there? I talked with a guidance counselor at the university, and she told me, I think what you're looking for is something called organizational behavior. She said, we don't have an undergrad in organizational behavior, but psychology is as close as you can get. So I stuck with my major. I loved it. It was a great experience. It taught me how to think critically, which I think is the most important aspect of any undergraduate degree. I don't think it matters so much what you major in as much as you're passionate about it and learning. And from there, I moved into that space of organizational behavior, which is the marriage of psychology and business.
Oh, perfect. With your degree in psychology.
Exactly. From there, I worked as a staffing manager for Alcoa, the aluminum manufacturing company, and then came back to BYU, to the Marriott School, and for my master's degree in organizational behavior, which has now been subsumed into the MBA program. I did a joint degree at the Kennedy Center for International Relations, International and Area Studies, actually, and loved every aspect of it. And part of it was Bulgaria not only taught me, my mission not only taught me the importance of organization and trying to make systems better, but the importance of understanding different people and different cultures. And so that's why I started going down that international route.
Wow. It seems like it got kickstarted by a mission, kind of like a chain reaction. The first step was a mission.
Yeah, absolutely. It had a big impact on me, partly because I was born and raised in Utah, had never been on an airplane until I got on that airplane to go to Bulgaria. That was my first time out of the country, first time on an airplane, a lot of firsts.
So it sounds like you found this master's degree in organizational behavior and international relations that allowed you to work in this sphere that you're now interested in. I know that you went out and you got to work in some of those positions. What were some of those positions that you got to work in to use those skills?
So my goal was I wanted to work for the World Bank. I was interested in poverty alleviation and fixing broken economies. I thought I'm going to probably need a PhD for that. Went off to get a PhD, hated every minute of it, quit. Went and worked for the World Bank. I thought, I'm done. I don't need to go back because I got the job that I wanted. That's why I was doing the PhD in the first place. I was based out of Washington, D.C. It was a contract position, so it wasn't permanent. But usually that's how it goes with those roles. And I got another position in Serbia working on a privatization project for a big rubber products company. Spent time there, loved it, a great experience. Part of me was like, I think I could do this as a professor. I think I'm selling myself short if I don't finish that PhD. And so quit, went back for my finished my PhD. And then my wife and I decided she's probably the only person I know who is more interested in living and working abroad than myself. And she's like, let's go abroad. I had become a Balkan specialist. We had lived in Bulgaria, had done some work in Bulgaria, doing consulting there, Serbia, and thought, let's branch out and go to Asia. My wife had served an LDS mission in Japan, and she said, let's go over here to Asia. And I'm like, I've never been to Asia. Let's try it. And so we had a few interviews with different organizations, and I was mostly interested in Japan and China. Then I had a friend who's Korean, and he said, Samsung is starting a new business school. Would you be interested? And I said, no. And he said, well, why don't you just go check it out? And so my wife and I flew out there for our first time to Seoul, Korea, and again, fell in love with the place. And my wife turned to me and said, this is where we're coming. And I said, great, this is where we're coming.
Wow.
So we lived in Korea, helping Samsung start a new MBA program. Korea hadn't had an MBA program. They were saying, we're tired of sending all our students to the U.S. to get their MBAs, so let's create an MBA program here.
Wow. So that was the first one.
So a wonderful experience. Learning Korean is tough. Anyone who has learned that language, hats off to them, because I did not do well. I did not learn that language.
Did you have to learn it? Were you constantly speaking it?
The program we were setting up was in English. It was an international program to bring in future country managers for Samsung companies. We were bringing in, we'd bring in someone from India, and that person was slotted to potentially be the next country manager for Samsung in India.
Wow.
So we were bringing them from all over the world.
That
so
is
it was
amazing.
Really exciting times.
That is really exciting.
Yeah. Just a short story. The food was kind of new to me. I have to admit, I wasn't a huge fan. And I remember kimchi. I just made myself eat kimchi every day. I'm wow. I really can't stand this food. It's terrible. And I just made myself eat it. After 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, I can handle this. After 4 weeks, I found I was just absolutely craving kimchi. And now it's one of my favorite foods. And Korean food is my favorite food. Wow. Anytime my wife and I go out on a date, we don't even ask. We just know we're going to Korean food.
Wow, that is amazing. That's a good example of just embracing the culture of another country, just really living it. That's impressive. So you were there, did amazing things in Korea. What brought you back to the Marriott School?
It was a tough decision. Other than my mission, BYU has had, at least professionally, the greatest impact on me. I attribute where I am today to my experience at BYU as a student here. I was a first one in my family to go to college, first one of my siblings to go to college, just coming to life here and having this amazing experience. It's tough, competitive, right? I mean, I was like, wow, these people are smart. But that didn't seem to bother me. I wasn't the best student. I got okay grades and I plugged along, but I was learning and I was constantly engaged and growing. And it was awesome. So I thought, if I ever go back to BYU, I want to feel like I can give back to BYU because it's given so much to me. There were a couple times before that when I had an opportunity to come to BYU, and I turned it down early on in my career. I didn't feel like I had enough to give back. And I also had things I wanted to understand and grow and develop. So when that call came, and literally was a call from a colleague of mine who's like, hey, it's time. We'd love you to come to BYU. Wow. And I turned to my wife and she's like, I'm not really interested in going back to Utah. At this point, we each lived about 15 years of our adult lives outside of Utah. I said, fine, I'll call him and tell him I'm not going out. She had a very spiritual experience while we were traveling and we were in Prague in the Czech Republic and had a spiritual experience that, it's time for us to BYU is a good place for us to be. We ended up coming back and we have not looked back. My wife loves it here and I don't think I could get her to leave now at this point. And I love it. It felt different than from other universities. It felt like, here's a place I really want to be able to contribute. I really want to be able to give back the way that university gave to me.
Thank you for sharing that. And it seems like now that you are here, you really are giving back to the university. I talked about at the beginning of the episode that you're teaching classes, you're professor of management, but you're also the director of the Whitmore Global Business Center. And that has a major impact on students. Could you kind of help us understand what impact does it have? What is there available at the center for students, and what exactly is it?
First of all, I love being at the Whitmore Global Business Center. I think it's the best center on campus. Our purpose is to develop students who can become Christ-like leaders in a globally dynamic environment. We're helping them to actually transform the world, which is the mission or vision of BYU Marriott School of Business, which is to inspire students to transform the world through Christ-like leadership. We're offering that component of, to transform the world through Christ-like leadership, you also have to understand the world. You have to understand how to operate in that world. You have to understand the challenges you're facing, the problems in the world, if you want to be a change for good. And so what we offer in the center is we help students get to that point by engaging them in international experiences. These experiences represent things from study abroad programs, going on a study abroad with a group of students to different countries, international internships, working for a company in a foreign country, international exchange programs where you're going to study for a semester or so in a different university in a different country. We also have stuff on campus that helps students understand how to develop and grow a business internationally. We have something called Global Hub, a cross-campus initiative that brings students from different majors and helps them understand how to build and grow an international business. In this case, they're building an ed tech company, and they've actually generated revenue. They're actually doing quite well.
It's amazing.
Their purpose is to help educate the world about international business. They're learning international business by doing international business and by helping people understand how to do international business. So it's a triple threat.
That's so interesting. I had heard about study abroads and international internships, but I didn't know about some of these other opportunities. Thank you. I think a lot of students feel very comfortable in Utah and in Provo. Sometimes we feel like even just being here is hard enough. I can't imagine trying to go outside of the country and embrace a new culture. What would you say to a student who's feeling that way?
I think the benefit is, well, first and foremost, what international travel does is it breaks down barriers. It breaks down biases. It breaks down prejudice. It helps us understand that the world that we live in has different people with different beliefs, different views, different ways of doing things, and that they're not necessarily wrong, they're just different. One of the first things I recognized in going to Korea is when we moved to Korea, and I was an adult, I was working, and I had 2 children at the time. We had our 3rd child in Korea, and I get to this country, and it's so different from the United States in so many ways. Culturally, it's very collective. The U.S. is very individualistic. I remember having a discussion with my manager and saying, Jay, you're having me do all these things for the group that are not part of my job description. And he just looked at me and he said, don't worry, Shad, we'll take care of you. We're a family here.
Wow.
And it was a very different mindset. I was actually angry at the time and thought, I need to be working on what my job description is because this is a contract. For him, the job was a relationship, not a contract. But as an American, for me, this was a contract. It was a very transactional contract. And of course, he actually recognized that. He had spent time living in the U.S. before. He came back to me and said, listen, I understand your concern, but in Korea, things are done this way. I was able to embrace that and understand, oh, yeah, this is actually not a bad way. It's just different from what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And once I did, I was like, this is a great way to operate. Sam operates that way, and it's a very Korean way to operate. But this is one of the most successful companies in the world. So obviously they're doing something right.
Right. Going two places with different cultures, you learn about the benefit of working together, relationships, and collectivity. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. Before this episode, we also talked about how there's benefits that relate to the values here at the Marriott School of Business. To remind our listeners, the values, there's 4 of them: faith in Christ, integrity, respect for all, and excellence. How do you feel that international education or international business ties in with developing those values?
Well, I think if a student, for example, and I'm going to go specific with a student here at BYU,
Okay.
if they're considering, should I go do a study abroad? Should I try to get some kind of international internship? Should I go work on this research project internationally? When you're considering it, don't just consider, oh, this is a really, I can see something cool and neat and a new way of doing things, a new culture, have new food. I think what these experiences do is they help deliver the kinds of leaders we're trying to develop in the Marriott School of Business. When you go outside of your country, you're going outside of your comfort zone as well. You have to take a leap of faith, right? You have to go into an area that's uncertain, that's unknown. And it comes with risk, it comes with challenges, it comes with hardship. The only way to really survive in those kinds of environments is to say, you know what, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm willing to take that chance. Then what it does is it builds faith in Christ, because now you're turning to something greater than you, because you're like, I can't do this on my own. Living abroad, working abroad is difficult. It's tough. And it requires every second of that day faith.
Yeah.
And when you have faith in Christ, it empowers you. So that's one. I think the other thing is you learn to respect other people. You learn to respect different cultures, different ways of thinking, different views, different beliefs, and to do so in a way where you can maintain your own integrity as well, right? Because you have to balance this. How do I respect this culture while at the same time staying core and true to who I am? When I was working in Bulgaria, I was working for a company called Management Systems International, this consulting company. And I was part of this team. They were mostly Bulgarians. We had 2 other Americans on the team, including myself. There were 2 new people, 2 young associate level people, myself and another woman who we both really wanted to fit in. In consulting, it's a pretty intense environment and a lot of work. I remember the team said, we're going to go out every Thursday for dinner and drinks. And I'm like, I'm going to go out. I want to be part of the team. I want to fit in. I remember we all went out and everyone started ordering their drinks. And they're like, what are you going to have, Shad? I'm like, oh, I'll just have a Coke. Like, no, you need to drink alcohol. I'm like, no, I'll just have a Coke. This was my boss who was saying this. He said, you got to drink. He's like, Shad, you have to understand, for us to connect, we're drinking together. That's part of our culture. That's what we do. That's how we bond.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. I actually made a commitment. It's a religious thing. And he's like, I don't care if it's religious. So then I finally said, listen, I made a commitment when I was young. I didn't tell him it was when I was 8, when I was baptized. But I made this commitment that I would not drink alcohol, no matter what the circumstance. And I apologize, and I have nothing against you drinking. But this is a commitment I made, and I will honor this commitment. I'm going to be here every Thursday night, and I'm going to be with the team. But he kept pushing back, and he said, I don't think I can trust you. This created a point of major tension for us. My other colleague happened to be vegetarian. In Bulgaria, being vegetarian, especially at this time, was not a good thing either.
Interesting.
She stopped coming to those social gatherings, and I don't blame her. It was tough. I remember going back after the first couple times to my wife and having this discussion. I said, I've never been tempted or felt a need to drink, but I've never felt such a strong need to drink to fit in.
Right.
And of course she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm not sure. So I think you should keep going back and show them that you're going to be part of that team and you're going to be committed. So I kept going, and it took about 4 months.
Wow, 4 months.
And after 4 months of going back and forth, I got in good with the team. I would have conversations and debates and arguments with my teammates as well over time about drinking, smoking. Like, well, how do you know? If you've never drank, if you've never smoked, how do you know you don't like it? One of my colleagues was interviewed by a magazine at one point, And they asked her about, because she didn't smoke, and they're like, why don't you smoke? She's like, it's a principle. If you make a commitment, you should honor that commitment. I'm like, when she came back, I said, that sounds oddly familiar with what we were talking about before. She's like, yeah, I loved that logic.
Oh, wow.
So by the end of 4 months, we were out, and my manager looked at me. This was the pivotal moment. He looked at me and he said, Shad, you're okay. You're okay. And I believe I can trust you, not just because you can hang out with us and you can have fun, but you honor your commitments. And I think about that and what a difference that makes. This is showing him respect by honoring the culture of the team, but I'm also honoring my integrity, which is staying core to who I am.
Right.
When he sees that, when he recognizes that, it has this shift for him where, actually, I think I can trust you more than the other people on this team because you're true. You have a high say-do ratio. What you say is what you do. And I can trust that. And that makes a big difference. I think international travel creates those kinds of opportunities because then you have kids put in situations. You're going to be put in those situations at BYU. But in an international setting, it's much more exacerbated.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I just think international travel and these kinds of experiences for students, one, helps them build faith, helps them build integrity, helps them build respect. And of course, the one I didn't mention is excellence, which is you have to still be good at your job.
Right.
So you have to perform.
I think you've become a more well-rounded person. You become a more excellent professor, expert in management and organizational behavior because you had these experiences. And so I think excellence totally fits in there. Thank you for sharing that story. That's fascinating that you gained the trust of your team, not by fitting in with them, but by keeping your commitment, doing what you say you would do. I think it relates to the message of our podcast, Measuring Success Right. How do you measure success, Dr. Morris?
Well, that's a very big question
That is a big question.
Really won't answer well. I know that. All right, I'll write it. But for me, success really comes in staying core to who you are and adapting everything else. Yeah. And in that regard, it's, another example, I apologize, but you think of marriage. My wife and I, we love each other very much. I feel like we have a great relationship. And part of it comes in that we have these very core things about us that's very unique, that we love each other because of that. We're very unique and different in certain ways, but we also are very good at adapting to each other's. I got into triathlons because my wife was a big triathlete, and I couldn't swim to save my life. Well, I could to save my life, but I could not do any kind of real swimming through just okay, I'm going to figure this out. I want to adapt to her culture, which was part of her culture. Adapting to each other and finding flexibility, that's, to me, how we measure success. And then, of course, staying true to who you are.
Thank you, Dr. Morris.
Thank you for listening to the Measuring Success Right podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss the next interview. The Measuring Success Right podcast is a production of the Marriott Student Review. This episode was produced by Stuart Bird, Allison Pope, Sarah Bird, Taya Wolf Hobson, and Jackson Berthold. Sound design and audio engineering by James Call. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not reflect the official views or opinions of Brigham Young University or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.